Hello, everybody. My name is Dave Kramp. I'm Director of Sales here at Levrex. I would like to welcome you to today's webinar. I'm, as I said, Director of Sales. I'm out of St. Louis, been with Levrex about 8 years. And I think I've gone through the list and I've seen and known most of you and talked to a lot of you. So welcome to our today's webinar. But what I would like to do next is I'd like to introduce today's speaker, Mike McManaman. Michael is the Michael is the functional lead for IPS development here at Levrex and a senior PLM consultant. He has been with Levrex for 7+ years and has spent much of his time implementing engineering change management solutions, configuring IPS, leading PLM projects, and doing data migrations. Next slide.
Yep.
A little bit about Levrex. Levrex is been in business since 2003, and as most of you know, we are in the business of primarily dealing with SAP PLM and implementing SAP PLM. We have full end-to-end coverage and functional and technical consultants that know the SAP PLM model, both on discrete, process side, project portfolio management, environmental health, and safety. We have been in business, as I said, since 2003. We have over 900 employees. Main office is in Mountain View, California, with technical U.S. development in Troy, Michigan, and our delivery center in King of Prussia, and also our European center, Global Delivery Center in Minsk, Belarus. All right, let's go to the next slide.
Yep.
Yeah, so in addition to all the services that we provide you, as Levrex is a software company. With our many years in business serving you, our customers, Levrex has been able to identify areas where you could benefit, where we could help benefit our customers with integrated solutions to help augment SAP functionality. Our goal is to make our customers use of SAP a more enjoyable experience while reducing risk, time, and cost to implement. Quickly, some of the applications that we deliver is IPS, Integrated Process Solution, our workflow tool. Mike's going to talk a little bit about more of that today, so I'm just going to leave that one there. BMAX, Bill of Material Allocation Extension Tool. It's our master data management extension tool. Teamed with IPS, this gives you a powerful application set that can help you manage your master data needs. IQ series. This is a set of applications that we built to help you and your customers enjoy and find SAP easier to use. We've taken areas of SAP that can be difficult or awkward to use and made them easy, like document management, like understanding your product structure and all the object links in your products. Recipe development content. We have recipe development content. Discussion, the ability to do Slack-like discussions between yourselves. Publishing, IQ Publishing, teamed with the Enterprise Product Definition Cloud Collaboration Suite from SAP. IQ Publisher helps augment that by giving you better upload-download tools to work with that functionality. Okay. And with that, I'm going to hand the podium over to Mike, and he's going to take us through what's new and cool in IPS v5.0. Mike.
Thanks, Dave. Like Dave said, my name is Mike McManaman. I'm the IPS Functional Lead. Want to give a little shout out. We also have an IPS Development Lead. His name is Michael Varner, and he was instrumental in getting IPS 5.0 ready. So I'm going to talk briefly about what is IPS. I know we have many people on the call who know what IPS is already, or their existing customers, but we might have a few new people. So what is IPS? What does it stand for? It's our integrated process solution. So it's an SAP add-on to simplify business processes via workflow enablement. So it's workflow in SAP. It allows business users to create and manage workflows more easily. I'll talk about that more in a moment. And it reduces time and effort to develop and maintain these processes. One of our philosophies is simplicity and agility through a rapid deployable solution. And we build process templates with simple building block approach. So in IPS terms, if you're familiar with it, we create the master data. Those are the Lego blocks. And then we use the workflow templates to build those Lego blocks. Okay. So why IPS? So I picked out a few reasons. For one, it's easy to build. There's no need to involve IT when you want to build a workflow. and business users can be trained to build and maintain workflows. So typically we'll come in, we might build a workflow or two, and then you don't need somebody that knows ABAP to develop IPS workflow templates or to maintain them, to add additional descriptions or users. So typically we find people that without IT background can maintain these workflows. So that's a big benefit. You can move fast with IPS. So we can quickly build prototypes or proof of concept workflows so you can see what it's like in the system without waiting for developers. So, if you have a process flow and you have some flow charts, we can develop an IPS workflow with that information in a matter of minutes or hours, as opposed to previously, it might take days or months. So another big benefit of IPS is constant improvements. So we work with a lot of customers that have had custom workflow solutions. And with IPS, you get quarterly IPS releases. So any of the things that we think would update the product or help out a wide group of business users, we add that to the product. So quarterly IPS releases, and we are constantly looking for ways to improve the product and provide new features for our customer base. So one of the things in the IPS 5.0 release, if you take the release, we'll have some information about how we would like you to request some new functionality and just provide us some feedback of what you would like to see in future releases. And another thing we're seeing more and more is the use across the business. So you think of Levrex, we're the SAP PLM guys and gals. We're seen as the experts in that field. That's where a lot of our bread and butter is. But we're also a software company. We're a business process company. And so we have solutions beyond PLM, and we're doing more and more where you might, start with PLM, but you expand into other parts of the business, because IPS can be used across a large group of different business processes. So I've taken a few sample processes. We've implemented some of these customers, and they're all possible. So, you could do document engineering and material master releases and extensions. So that's all possible. That's all in the PLM realm. But, manufacturing changes, vendor setups, procurement requests, sales orders, quality notifications, equipment master creation and release, many more. These are just a small sample of the processes that we can implement in SAP through IPS. It's also important to note with our IPS Ticket, which we'll be demoing today, and using that to show off the IPS 5.0 functionality, any SAP object is possible to add workflow to. Okay, so we're here to talk about IPS 5.0, and it has many new features and bug fixes, and it's one of our biggest updates yet. So our big focus was on improving usability and providing the end user more useful information. And also a big emphasis was continued improvement on ECTR integration in IPS. So last week we had a demo with ECTR and some IPS functionality. And we're going to continue to improve on this until we get to full integration into ECTR, so the engineers don't have to leave ECTR and they can do everything workflow related completely in ECTR. So we're almost there with every release. We've gotten closer to that. And with this release, we have some new functionality. And a lot of what we're doing here is building a foundation for future releases. So during this discussion and demo, we're going to give you some of the new features, but please ask us for the complete release notes. And we'll probably be sending those. We will be sending those along with this video to anybody that's a part of this.
Yeah, Mike, that's the plan.
Okay, so we're going to send the complete release notes. So I just want to emphasize that what we're showing today, we can't go through all of it in this 30-minute session, but we're going to be showing some of the things that are in the release notes. So we'll give you a complete picture. So I wanted to highlight some of the IPS 5.0 features, and many of these we're going to see in a demo shortly. But I talk about a few other things that aren't necessarily in the demo. But so first one is we've heard from a lot of customers that they want a way to notify, and a lot of times it's external suppliers or partners. They want to notify them that either something's been released or a workflow has been completed, and they don't necessarily want to create a user ID for those outside users. So with IPS 5.0, we now support external email addresses on email notifications. So the external agent does not require an SAP user ID, and these email addresses can be assigned ad hoc on a running workflow or in a workflow configuration. So something we've been asked about, we've added it now. So if you were a part of the demo last week, And if you'd like to, we can send that as well to anybody that's interested. We had an ECTR IPS demo last week, but like I said, we have improved ECTR integration. So now we have a tighter integration. Some of the new features here from the previous releases are you can now add in remove agents, workflow agents. You can insert, start, and end workflows. And now we can use digital signature functionality directly in ECTR. So we've added predictive workflow completion dates. So set up expected task durations per task and provide users with expected due dates for individual tasks and workflow overall. So on a task level, if you're familiar with IPS, in configuration, we can set how long we expect this task to take, and then the end user will be presented with a due date so they can kind of understand when this should be done by, and then we'll have that for the overall workflow. So you'll be able to analyze, are my workflows being completed on time as I expect? We'll have that information. And we're going to build on that in the future. So we do have a lot of IPS ticket updates in this release, and I'm going to be using the ticket to show off some of the IPS 5.0 improvements in a short time, so I wanted to go over some of those. So the IPS ticket change log. So now we can get a complete picture of what's changed on an IPS ticket. And the IPS ticket change log that we're going to see looks and works just like SAP change documents in the web UI. So another highly requested feature, you want to be able to see who manipulated what field at what time and what the field was. And so now we've enabled, with configuration, you can turn this on. So this one has been asked for a lot. Subscription service, or we call it a IPS ticket watch list. So there's many circumstances where maybe you're not a part of the workflow. Maybe there's somebody that's not a part of the tickets, that not a part of this particular one, but they want to know what's going on with the ticket and they don't want to be added to the workflow. So this is a subscription service essentially, but the watchlist functionality allows users not on a ticket to monitor tickets based on certain actions. So users can add themselves to a ticket and be notified on a ticket status change or a workflow completion. And we'll be adding different actions in the future, maybe approve any approved task will send out a notification. We also have an IPS ticket status roadmap. So it's just a visual indicator of the IPS ticket status network. So you'll be able to easily identify where the ticket is and where it will go next. So one of the things we heard feedback on is, I want to see what's going on, what's happened in the workflow, and I want to see it in one place. So we've added a simplified decision log overview. It's an additional tab if you're familiar with IPS that's been added to the existing workflow overview. And it shows all the workflow decisions that have been made so far in one screen. There's a lot of information there. We'll go over that. And this will mean less clicking and a quicker insight to what has happened on the ticket. So escalations, you may think of them as reminders. I often, you can call them either one, but we call them escalations, but we've improved the functionality there. So with escalation or reminder, email functionality has new functionality. Escalation emails can now provide links to the workflow. They can use custom notification logic, and you can now send escalations to everyone assigned to a task, even if they've been assigned dynamically. So previously, you would have to assign agents to this, but now we can basically say, I want to send an escalation to anybody that was assigned to a workflow task, regardless of how they got there. And we also have some email forwarding improvements. So users who receive a work item because of forwarding situation will now be able to receive an email notification as well. Multi-forwarding is now fully supported. And we have a small group of customers that use admin forwarding through traditional SWIA. So we've added a flag that's completely optional where you can see if there's been an admin forward. Okay. So I'm going to go into a live demonstration. Give me 1 second. I'm going to pull it over, make sure I need to do a refresh. Then we're going to go over a, give me one more.
That was great. Yeah, that was great, Mike. Great intro.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, so what we're looking at right now is an IPS ticket. If you're not familiar with this object, it's a custom object that Levrex has created. If you've done PLM, it's kind of, I like to think of as an engineering light, but basically it's a way to, we can add objects, SAP objects, a wide range of SAP objects, We can add some metadata, we can add some attachments, and we can enable workflow. So that's the high-level introduction to a ticket. But I've created one, and I'm just going to go start top to bottom and go over some of the new additions to the ticket, and then some of the, not everybody uses a ticket, so there's some new functionality for everybody as well. So first thing I'm going to start with is show you what the watch list looks like. I'm in the business client, so it might have a little bit different look and feel, but I'm going to click on the watch list. One second. Okay, so the ticket watch list, I've already added a user, and Michael Varner actually has access to the system, but I wanted to give him another shout out for helping develop this. But a user would add themselves to here. You could add outside, like you see, you can add outside emails. You could add your own users, and you'll be able to, basically this is a subscription service. So in the background, if I were to shift the status or the workflow were to be completed, Michael Varner would receive an additional email to his inbox, letting him know, to his Outlook inbox, whatever inbox you use, and notify them that something has been changed. So our version of the subscription service right there. So another feature, one second, is the change history. So I'm going to click on display change history, and I'm going to scroll down. Sorry for the scrolling. Okay, so now we have this new change history section. You can see you can filter on dates, and you can filter by users. So if you're looking for what a particular user changed, you'll be able to search using that. So this looks and feels, and we designed it just like some of the other web UI change logs. We use the same philosophy. So if users have used other change logs, they'll be able to use this one and understand this one. You can also download this list of change logs and see everything and put it in an Excel format. But if I were to click expand all, I've changed a lot on this ticket, so you're going to see a lot of information. But you can see it has old and new values, who the user, the field description, who it was changed by, if it was an insert or update scenario. And if I scroll down, you will see who added, which individual objects, could be individual fields. And we also, and in the README, you'll see this. You'll also be able to add custom ticket fields to this change history, so you can tell who has changed what within your ticket more easily. Okay, I'm going to go to the top. We have one more you might have seen. So previously we had and we still have it, we have a roadmap for phases of the workflow, but we got a few requests to display the status roadmap. So you can see we are currently in status 30, so 30 is highlighted. You can see if something got sent back, it would go to review or create. And in the future in the workflow, we're going to close. So this is just based on whatever's configured for the ticket. We show it in a visual manner. So that's just a nice feature to have, and it's easy to configure. I'll note, you can see one of the benefits of using a ticket, you can have objects that aren't traditional in PLM, and then this is one, routing. We have materials, bombs, and routings on the same ticket. So you can think, any SAP object can be added here, linked to, you click on it, it'll open up, and you basically can use this to route decisions and workflow related to this. So we have attachments. We have notes directly on the ticket. I'm going to keep scrolling down because I want to get to some things that are not necessarily ticket related, but that'll apply for all users. So I'm going to click on approve ticket. I want to show you something additional. So we can see this due date field. So previously we used this, but you would have to manually assign this. In the backend configuration, I believe it was 5 days that we set that this task should take 5 days. So we see the date is 5/25. I started this yesterday. These calculations also you can configure, take into account things like the US vacation schedule and weekends. So you're actually getting the due date not just of based on in 5 days, but you're getting based on, okay, what calendar events are happening in the US, 8-hour workday, weekends, holidays. This is when I expect this to get done. So you can configure this task duration, expected task duration, for every dialogue task or every decision task. And then we calculate, based on those things that I said, the expected completion date for the overall workflow. So you can see this started on 5/19. And when we calculated all the submits, review, and approve tasks, we have an expected completion date of this workflow on June 2nd. So it's just a good way to monitor and see, hey, are we making good progress? Are we where we need to be? And I'm going to talk a little bit about reporting. We have a report that utilizes this, and we're going to continue to expand on this in the future. Another thing I wanted to note, so this isn't the greatest example because it's a simple review and approve ticket, but we've had many implementations where we've had requests to have longer than 250 characters for the task description. A lot of times this task description is a checklist of things that we want the user to complete when they're making this decision. So that's been bumped up now to 1,000 characters. So you can put in a lot more information. And I know that's been a limitation previously, but now we allow 1,000 characters for this task description. I'm going to scroll down. So if we're looking at this workflow, we can see that we've completed, we're in the approved task, but maybe I want to see, okay, what are all the things that have happened so far? Has there been any rework loops? How long, what's been going on? I'm going to click on the workflow overview. And I'm going to click on, so workflow overview has always been there. And I'm going to click on decision log overview. So let me expand this because I didn't make many decisions. So here we can see all the top to bottom, these are the oldest decisions to the newest decisions. But now we have a complete log that you can export and see of all the decisions that have been made. We can click and we can see the comments for each one. There was a digital signature, you would see that as well. So we have the user comments pop up. And we have the expected close date. So it's just a lot of information about what's happened in the ticket in one view, what all my decisions have been. And if you don't, have a PDF, this is also very useful to see everything. So you can see in this case, we had a lot of, I did a bad job. So we had a lot of reworks, and eventually I figured it out. So one more thing I would like to show. Let me close out of this. Just a small addition, and this is it. In the decision, previously in comments in some of the previous releases, we only had this text. We've also added the decision as well. So not just the comments, also now have that level of detail. So that's what I wanted to show on the ticket. I'm going to go back to my slides because I want to talk a little bit about reporting. So it's something we get asked often about. And I wanted to show some of the reports that we have. We've added a couple of reports that are in beta right now. So this is a existing report, the IPS Workflow Analysis. Not everybody knows about it or utilizes it. It was released in 4.6 or 4.7. But this is very useful out-of-the-box report. So you would use this if you want to analyze decisions that have been made. So the input would be, your workflow template and a start and end date, a period of time you want to analyze. And you can look at information such as what's the average duration that this task takes for my users, or what's the majority decision, shortest and longest durations. You can see how many decisions have been made by an individual user. You see Eric's made a lot of decisions here. And you can see the number of times in a pie chart. So we have some graphs. And then there's other information. You can see all the objects that are related to this. So this is just a good tool to get some high-level analysis of some of the things that are happening with your workflows. So 1 second. Lost my mouse for a second. So here's another, this is in beta. We've released this for 5.0. We're actively working on it and improving it. But we have an IPS Workflow Comparison tool. So maybe you have the same workflow in a couple of different environments and you want to compare them, or maybe just want to compare two workflows. You can export those, upload them in XML form, and then you can do a comparison on the general data, the attributes, some of the mapping, so you can compare the two workflows. So we've had this request. And we're actively working on it. It is released, but we're still actively working to improve it. So that's an IPS 5.0 specific report. Apologize, the screenshot's a little fuzzy, but we talked about expected completion dates. This is a dashboard, so that if you put in your user ID, or if you're an admin, you put in somebody else's user ID, you can get a picture of what tasks do I have that are overdue, which ones are due today, which ones are due this week, and some of the other ones that maybe are coming down the pipeline. We have some useful graphs here, but you can see we're building upon some of the functionality that we're adding here with new reports, and these are reports that we're going to be enhancing in the future. Okay, we got about 4 minutes left. Dave, if you want to, ask, we can answer some questions. Yep.
So yeah, everybody that's online, if you have any questions, once again, please put them into your chat panel. It should be on for mine, it's on the right-hand side of my screen. Hopefully it's on your right-hand side. But there's a little chat window that you can open up and type in a chat and share it. And we will answer those questions. We will also take any of the questions that are asked, and we will embed them in the back of this deck and have a textual addition to there as well. Okay, here's one, Mike, that came up. Can IPS workflows spawn other workflows from inside them? Have you done that before?
Yeah, we've done that. Yes, we can kick off other IPS workflows, or we can kick off. If you're on an engineering record, we can kick off other tickets. We can kick off other objects too. So there are circumstances where you might want to have a dependency. So I kick off a parallel process, and I say, I don't want to complete this other workflow until this other workflow is completed. So we have those complex scenarios, but the short answer is yes, we've done that many times, where we kick off either other tickets or other workflows. And there's different ways to do it, but yes, we can definitely do that.
Okay. Here's another question. On decisions, how did the decisions work? Can you make the decision look at metadata inside of SAP before allowing that decision? So like some sort of decision logic?
Yes. So one of the things, it's specific to each circumstance, we have basically decision checks. So we can say, I'll take a random example. Don't allow this decision. Give either a warning or a hard stop if the material status on the object section is not equal to 30. That's just one example. But that's something we typically, every customer would like is, we want to prevent workflow from being decided if this check has not been met. So we have that. So yep, we've done that. There's probably a lot more details on the individual requirement, but that's something we often do.
Okay. Here's another one. You said you enabled external emails. Can that external email person make a decision in the IPS workflow?
Currently, right now, it's just for notifications. They're just going to receive an email. In the future, we can look into how we can allow people from external emails possibly to make a decision. But for right now, because there is a lot of things connected to user IDs in terms of names,
yes,
digital signatures, there's a lot of things that are connected in decision making to that user ID. So right now there's no plans for that because notifications make sense, but it's something we can always analyze in the future how we could technically do it, but it's not something immediately supported. So right now, just to make it clear, the external emails are just for notifications for that reason, because there is a lot that's involved in the user ID in terms of digital signatures or information in the background that's associated with a user ID.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hot topic because I think every workflow we almost talk to, everybody that wants to do workflow, part of that is some sort of collaboration where, we got co-manufacturers, co-engineering, we got, co-development in projects, et cetera, and how can this tool help us with that? So I think that's, a great advance that we've had there. Okay.
I think we got time for one more maybe, and then any questions you ask, we will answer. We'll send you an answer to it as well.
Yeah. So if you think of a question post this, send it to Michael and myself, and we'll make sure we add it so the whole group who's sharing this can participate this. You said in the presentation that ECTR has the workflow in it. Can you describe real high level how that's working inside the ECTR window? Is it in the CAD side or is it in the pure ECTR side?
It's in the pure ECTR side. We had a webinar last week, and we showed some of that functionality. If anybody would like a demo of that, of how that looks in the system, we'll definitely give that. But it's how you see, if you're familiar with IPS, we're pretty close to having everything that you would see in an IPS workflow tab or menu directly in ECTR. So that's something we can send a follow-up with the webinar that we did last week. We could also do a demo.
Put some links to screenshots in there. I think would be a nice way to help that as well.
Yeah.
Okay. That is all the questions that we have time for today. Once again, if you have any more questions or you think of something later, or you're listening to this recording and you have a question, please reach out to Michael and myself here at Levrex, and we'll be happy to follow up. We will package this webinar recording up in the decks and the release notes, and you should be receiving those as soon as we can productize them. Is that a good word? I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Well, you were Mr. TV. Mike was a TV guy. Anyway, Mike, great job today, and it was very insightful, and it's some really good stuff. And and thank you, Mike Varner, for all the hard work, and you and our customer base for helping us drive this wonderful product. Mike, anything else you want to say in close?
Nope. If you have any questions, feel free to email us, and if you have any future requests for improvements, please, we're all ears and we want to hear feedback. So as much feedback as possible, please send us. If you want you think of something that's some cool new functionality, let us know. We always are open for feedback.
Exactly. Customers can help drive the best things because they use it in the real world.
Yes.
And we just have to think stuff up.
Yeah.
But thank you once again for joining the Levrex webinar. We have a couple coming up in June. You'll be hearing about those soon. And I'm forgetting off the top of my head what they are. One of them is going to be about recipe development, and I forget the other one. But you'll be hearing from us. And hey, thank you for attending. We appreciate your attendance. We appreciate your business, and we appreciate for new people maybe some business working with you. Mike, I say goodbye.
Yep. Goodbye. Thank you, everybody.